Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm here with the wonderful Jennifer Saving. She's a neuropsychologist and embodiment guide, aka a yoga teacher with lots of depth. And we met just a few weeks ago on the Awaken to Pleasure retreat with Melissa Sanger. And Jennifer was assisting and also teaching the most wonderful embodiment flows and helping all the women on the retreat really get into their feminine energy and their sensuality. So me and Jennifer connected, and we are now working together a lot, and I'm really excited to be here with you today.
Oh, thank you, Beauty, for the introduction. That's so kind of you. So happy to know you and have you in my life. And yeah, I can't wait to do a deep dive into interviewing you so everyone can get to know you a little bit better in your journey.
Thank you, honey. I can't wait to explore this with you.
So, I guess my first question, if you're ready, sometimes people are like, oh my goodness, the first question
Yeah.
is we'll just dive straight into it because I know some of your audience watching this will know that you teach yoga yourself, and you've also done lots of massage training and things like that. That's all part of what you offer. And I guess my question is, we can call all of these offerings a little bit more mainstream in inverted commas. And then I know that you've got into sort of more taboo topics, such as pleasure. So I'd just love to ask, like, how you went from teaching yoga, massage, these kind of things into mentoring pleasure. So when did you discover pleasure, or when did everything change? Was there a moment, a person, an experience?
Okay, really good question. I feel like I just want to share a bit of like backstory, and especially around the question of where did I discover pleasure, because I feel like it's a key question for anyone. And it started before I was an adult, like exploring what felt good and kind of as a child becoming aware of this like pleasurable feeling. And so I guess it started, like around 7, 8, 9, 10. I was becoming aware of this energy within me that felt really good. And I felt really curious about it. And, I was kind of experimenting, exploring just little bits. It's like the holy grail. I was like, where is this feeling leading to? Getting to like 11, 12, like where is this feeling leading to? And I feel like during that time when perhaps it became a bit more obvious that I was kind of tapping into this side of our humanness, our sexual energy as part of every person, that I was receiving messages that this needed to be hidden, it needed to be private, or that it, even I was getting messages that it wasn't okay. And I was having this feeling of what I now know is shame around it. And so it kind of felt like, okay, this needs to go underground. Like, this isn't okay. And then at the same time, I guess, because I grew up in the 90s, we had the Spice Girls, we had like loads of pop culture where they dressed in a very like sexual way, like outward way. And so the messages when I was growing up felt really confusing, because on the one hand it was not okay, and on the other hand, in certain situations you could be really sexual, and that was kind of, I don't know if the word celebrated is right, but it felt like there was an empowering movement going on, I guess. But at the same time, I was getting messages of like, I guess where sex is commoditized or like sex sells, all that kind of thing. So I guess growing up, learning about pleasure was quite confusing
Mm,
and quite conflicting and sometimes really uncomfortable. I think there's the natural uncomfortableness when you're growing up of like exploring your pleasure and fumbling around, and especially with other people, and you don't know what you're doing. And I felt that the lack of communication when I was younger, and the lack of education and proper informative information and knowledge, and positive
mm,
stories and information really like held me back from being able to have a really healthy relationship with my sexual energy and how to express it and how to relate with other people and how to share it in really healthy ways, because that's essentially what I guess what felt good for me. Not everybody wants to share their sexual energy, but I definitely wanted to explore my sexual energy with other people's sexual energy. And I think so yeah, we're diving in deep right from the beginning, but I
no,
just
I
I
love it.
just,
I love it.
I just felt like with the question, when did you first start becoming aware of your pleasure? And it didn't start as an adult. It started when I was young, and it's a complex journey. And part of the journey was about the beginning of it, like, oh wow, what's this? And then it feels good, and oh, it's not okay in certain situations, or and then I think as you get older, especially being a girl, you get unwanted attention.
Mm,
And I feel like, so then you kind of learn, like, oh, for my own safety as well, there's times where I need to hide my sexuality to keep me safe. So
mm,
there's that dynamic as well. So I feel along the road there were there's lots of things that were missing in terms of education and self-knowledge, and that feeling of and being able to embrace your own sexuality um, during those fundamental development stages. Like, it's a fundamental part of our development, is our sexual development and our sexual health and well-being.
mm,
um, So I guess along the road, I probably didn't make as good decisions as I might have made if there was more open conversation around it, and people, especially adults, that I could talk to around it. Because when you're talking to your peers around it, you're all like fumbling in the dark. You're all asking questions and not really knowing. Do you know what I mean? Like, it would have been good to speak to people that were older, that knew, that were open about what was going on for them, what it's all about. But that wasn't the case then. And we didn't have social media. I didn't have social media growing up. Like, the internet didn't really come into the home until I was like 13, 14 or something. So there wasn't that access that there is now. And I guess the access for me was through like magazines, just getting snippets here and there. But yeah, so I guess I found my pleasure earlier on, and it sort of got dampened down, or I started disassociating from it for safety, or because of shame, or being told things from other people, like, why do I have to be so sexual all the time, or from peers. um and so I feel like my pleasure partly got taken away, like that gorgeous, juicy curiosity that you can have around it kind of got taken away. And I guess the journey now for me has been about refinding it, rekindling. So it's and yeah, I think that's where I am now. And because I've been really investing my time and my energy and my focus on my sexual awakening, it's felt so good to me that I've wanted to share it with other people.
mm,
And partly why I went down the yoga route, I became a yoga teacher. I loved yoga. I first tried it when I was 18, and I just, it was like a homecoming, just like being in a space where you're exercising, moving your body, breathing, meditating, and it not being competition. It felt like a real togetherness in the class. And I really, really enjoyed that. And I was, quite an active person before. Like I did gymnastics and swimming and all sorts of things. So yoga was just a really wonderful other opportunity to kind of, move my body and connect with myself on a deeper level. And so my yoga journey sort of really took over when I wasn't sure what my life path would be. And I tried lots of different things. And eventually I was in something that was like not nourishing my soul at all. Like it got to the point where I found it heartbreaking to be doing what I was doing before, that I decided, right, that's it. I want to be a yoga teacher. That's what I want to be. So at 25, I feel like that's a crux point for a lot of people, like around
Oh,
25,
yeah.
26. So many people have something that happens then and they're like, right, a life-changing sliding doors moment. And I decided to take myself away from the job that I was doing and into exploring yoga. And then everything flowed. I kind of got jobs quite easily then. So I guess the reason why I'm sharing that is because on the one hand, yoga was a beautiful journey for me. On the other hand, it kept me very safe. So from the pleasure aspect, like, I could easily kind of dampen down my sexual side within the yoga and just focus on the yoga and the spirituality and the movement. And I felt like it was another kind of school, another training. And yoga's changed since I've been in the world of yoga. Yoga was very much more strict when I first went into it, and now it's evolved to like encompass the person and not just these strict kind of rules, which I love. And I'm growing with that too. But at the beginning, it was like your do's and your don'ts within yoga.
Mm.
And and there was different schools within yoga in terms of their belief on um, your sexual energy. You keep it in to kind of raise your awareness and raise your consciousness. And there's other schools of thought along the yoga lines that are actually through your sexual energy. Your sexual energy is divine, and through that, and exploring that and awakening your sexual energy, you become enlightened. So there was kind of two different ways of like exploring your sexual energy. One was like through sexual acts, and the other one was not through sexual acts, but still using the sexual energy to build up. So, and I guess I was somewhere in the middle, and I definitely hadn't started exploring my sexual energy in the kind of what we call tantra way, I guess. And there's different types of tantra, but I was more in the straight and narrow line school of yoga. And but the thing is, it kept me safe. It was socially acceptable thing to tell people, because my previous line of work, I was a pole dancer, and that was I wasn't ready to share that, and I'm sharing it for the first time here publicly, that's what I did before. So I was very in touch with my sexual energy, but I was also commoditizing my own sexual energy to like fund me in life and traveling, my passions, and university. Um, but I couldn't share what I was doing with people without getting either an odd response or just deciding actually not to share at all and just saying that I was doing something else. And so yoga was really a safe haven, not only for my like sexual energy, but also like what was pleasing for other people, what was socially acceptable. Um, and the whole journey of like becoming more in touch with my pleasure is that I've also become more in touch with myself and not pleasing other people, like more focus about, pleasing myself and not worrying about what other people think. And that's been really, really liberating. So during the time of being in my safe little zone of teaching yoga, I started to become aware of my menstrual cycle, and I basically wanted to heal my menstrual cycle. I was getting horrendous pains. And so I then started to become aware of my feminine energy and being a woman and embracing that, stepping out of my masculine. I was very much in my masculine energy all the way through my life up until kind of the 27, 28, I guess. And then I started diving really into women's work and really going into womb wellness and women's wellness. Um, and then I got pregnant, which was amazing because I was wanting to prepare my womb for conception. And I got pregnant, and I've had my daughter now, which is amazing. And I had the most interesting experience after giving birth. So I yeah, I was really wanting to have an orgasmic birth, but it didn't happen for me. It was bloody painful. And it took a really long time, and it was hard. And yeah, so it was far from being pleasurable, because I'm aware that there's some women that are able to have like pleasurable births, which is amazing. But mine was far from that. But I feel like I was lucky, because just a few days after giving birth, it was like my yoni, my vulva, my vagina had been reawakened. So like just from one touch, it was like a button. I'd be like, phew. It was the sensitivity that returned was insane. I even felt like when my menstrual cycle came back, it yeah, just flushed everything out, and I was like sort of reborn again in balance. It was really a wonderful experience. But yes, the pleasure came back to me on a level that I hadn't experienced since I was really young, when you're really, really sensitive. So it made me aware of how desensitized I had got actually until that point. And I think with having a baby as well, after time, you get tired, your relationship starts to fall apart a bit, sometimes, not for everyone, but it did for me. And so that sensitivity and that pleasure that I'd had in those first kind of few days of like finding my body again after birth slowly went away, slowly eroded, basically. And the crux point of really coming onto this pleasure journey was, I think, like a year and a half, 2 years in. So when my daughter was like 1.5, 2 years old, I'd hit a breaking point, like a breakdown, and we'd taken on a new business. Well, I'd started a new business. We'd moved into this giant place to run this new business from, and I'd never lived in anywhere so big. My husband wasn't able to live with me because he was up in London doing his work, and I was a new mum, and I had dogs, and I just had so much on my plate that I hit breaking point, and I was actually like crying uncontrollably, just at anything and any time. And I decided I have to do something. I can't live in this state. This is horrendous. And I felt so lonely with it as well. And I knew that other women were going through the same. So two things came out of that breakdown. And, it felt like a point of no return. One was that I invested with my friend, my long-time friend, who I trusted, and I've seen her journey, and she's been working in the world of pleasure for a long time. But she doesn't just teach about pleasure; she teaches about relationships and prosperity in your business. So all those things touched me and was something that I wanted to dive into. And this felt like no better time, actually. It was like a survival thing. It's like, I have to do this now. I can't keep on, kind of worrying about the money. Actually, I think that's what I was worrying about. I was like, I need to do this because I need to get myself out of this place. So I invested with her, and I explored pleasure, relationships, feminine, masculine dynamics, and business prosperity through really being in your feminine and following your pleasure. And I spent 3 intensive months with her one to one, and I got one to one tutoring and one to one support. Anything that came up in my life, she was supporting me through, and so that I could bring the teachings in that she was teaching me actually into the moment, into the day-to-day life. So it was amazing. I wasn't just being taught teachings, but I was actually being taught how to bring that into my life, which was incredible. The second thing that came out of my breakdown was sister gatherings, because I felt lonely being in this motherhood space and kind of living on my own for the most part. I still had friends and things, but I think Monday to Friday everyone's like busy, so I felt just kind of caged away. And yeah, so I created these sisterhood gatherings, and I feel like I've come to the end of what I'm saying, and I'm just wondering how to wrap it up. But I
Oh
think, yeah,
no.
that's my pleasure journey. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, that's one. And that's how I went from yoga teacher to mentor, because after being mentored myself, I saw the value in it. It's just incredible. And so then I went from like doing these teachings on the sister gatherings to mentoring women one to one and wanting to help women on the level that I was helped with.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing. Honestly, like I feel like it's like such a simple question almost on paper, but actually when you unpack it, like how you got from A to B is such a more complex question. Like there are so many layers, and we really do need to go back like right to the beginning and hear someone's like full journey and story to like really meet them where they're at in the present. And so yeah, just thank you for sharing all that you shared. And I love that you like through the disassociation and the shame around pleasure and things, you've had almost like this rebirthing, you know, from that breaking point into where you are now and offering all the amazing work that you do. So it's just, yeah, it's such an honor to kind of hear from where you started to where you are now, and it definitely gives everyone kind of that full picture that's needed. um and we kind of, I guess, touched on this a little bit, but I'm really intrigued to know, like, along that journey, kind of you spoke about from a very young age, about 7 or 8, up until now. What do you think your biggest learnings have been? Or sometimes I like to call them relearnings or unlearnings, just because sometimes those are the more complex parts, have been around pleasure. What do you think, yeah, your biggest learnings have been?
Um, my biggest learnings around pleasure. I think it's one of like you're you are the most important thing. Like
Mm.
everything begins with you.
Oh,
And I felt like so much of my life I've been looking outside of myself, or wanting to be pleasing, socially acceptable, um, wanting to make sure other people are okay and happy or pleased. And I think the journey of pleasure was actually, work with a mentor when you're starting to unravel a way of being. So, say you're spinning this way for so long, and then you go through a training and you start spinning the other way. Kind of, you're like shedding stuff the way that you were being before, you're changing the way that you are. And when you do that, things get messy before they get better.
mm,
So when I so in my relationship, it was like I actually almost had to become a bit confrontational about my boundaries and what felt good to me. So what my partner had been used to up until that point and thought everything was okay, suddenly he's like, what's going on? Everything was okay and now it's not,
mm,
and it's because I was in a different place. I was like coming from a place outside of myself, and I was trying to begin to come from a place from within myself. And
mm,
so it took time for both of us to adjust, and um and it feels really grounding now to be really kind of aware of myself and my needs, my wants, my desires, and what feels good to me,
mm,
on another level, and the level just keeps on growing, like finding out what feels good to you. It's like, oh wow and wow. And so the journey doesn't end. It just it just continues and evolves.
mm,
um so I think, yeah, that's probably the biggest unlearning, is that you're not going to be able to please everyone. And actually my biggest learning was that things start with you.
oh,
Like how you're vibrating, how your energy is what ripples out.
mm,
And if people don't like that, that's fine. That's their thing. They can choose to walk away, and you can choose to walk away. But if your energy is rippling it out and it's affecting other people in a really positive, empowering, beautiful way, then that's a good thing. That's amazing. That's why each of us are unique, and that's why we're here. And I feel like, yeah, the pleasure journey hasn't just been about sexual energy and orgasm. It's so much more than that. It's a path to like self-knowledge, self-awareness, confidence.
Mm,
On all levels, it's like a body, mental, emotional confidence. And it also really helps with your communication. So if you're
mm,
coming from a place of you first, like coming from within, then the way that you communicate is always going to be different. It's going to evolve, and you're going to be creating healthier boundaries around what you don't like and magnetizing more things of what you do like towards you, because you're being clearer about what you do like. So
mm.
people know what you like, you know,
Yes.
rather than pretending or thinking that it's pleasing to say that you like it when you don't.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so I think that's probably the biggest learnings. Um, yeah, and also I guess I just found out how much shame I was carrying. I think sometimes you don't realize like how disassociated you might be from even your physical sexual anatomy, like numbness and or areas of pain that you might not be aware of until you start kind of exploring. So I feel like you just become more self-aware about the patterns of disassociation and what that causes in your body, or um, where you hold shame, like you can hold it in the weirdest places.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yes.
I feel you. I think that so many people are gonna resonate to what you're speaking to about this idea of like we can't really look after anyone else unless we look after ourselves first and kind of take care of ourselves. And that's really what pleasure is. Like it's in like living an abundant and pleasure filled life is really just like a fundamental act of self-care. And
Mm.
I feel like anyone that doesn't know you on maybe a personal level is just in for such a treat when they get to know you better, because you do, like, from doing this work you really emanate just like this warmth, this confidence, and like this outward desire just to empower and energize those around you as well. Like, yeah, it's just it's really an honor to witness. And I feel like pleasure has impacted your life. Like sometimes it's hard at the beginning. There's like that teething process that needs to happen. About, you spoke about, when you start knocking at the door and you're like, oh my god, there's actually a lot of shame and numbness and like all this kind of sticky stuff underneath. But what I'm hearing is that pleasure is just, it's up leveled in your life, like in a positive way. And I just wondered if you'd speak a bit more about that, like how it has impacted you in a positive way, like from more recent years. And I'd love to hear about your most magical experiences with pleasure so far.
Amazing. Yes. Thank you for your kind words. Um, I just wanted to share one little thing from before that
Yeah.
often I feel like we delay pleasure, like either as, if you're a parent or if you're working, whatever you're doing, sometimes we just delay it. And I feel like
Or
that's a
don't
big,
allow ourselves to feel
yeah, we
it.
don't allow ourselves. Yeah, we stop. And I feel like that is also being a learning that you can bring your pleasure and your sensuality into your day to day. It doesn't need to be right. I'll allot some time for it here, or like not now, or later, or when my children are older. Even, some people even hold back that long, and I just feel like no, life is now.
Mm,
Life is about pleasure, and even the most simple single cell organisms, amoebas, will go towards pleasure and away from pain. So they are driven, primarily driven towards things that are good and away from things that don't feel good. And we're made up of loads of these cells. This is how we're made, and
Mm.
we're dying how we're made. So yeah, I just wanted to share
Follow
that.
the pleasure. Follow the pleasure always.
Follow the pleasure.
Be
Don't
in the
delay the
present.
pleasure.
Follow the
Don't delay. Yeah. So my positive experiences. Can you just
yeah, just like your most kind of positive experiences with pleasure recently, or like your most magical experiences with it.
Okay. Where do I go with this? So my most, I guess, yeah, what you were saying about pleasure has up leveled my life.
Mm.
It's definitely done that 100%. And so most recently, I guess, is like being brave enough to go to this Awaken to Pleasure retreat, which I didn't know what it was going to be about. um I've very much before that point had been exploring my own pleasure with myself and with my husband, and then sharing my findings from exploring with myself and my husband with other women. I hadn't yet been in another room exploring pleasure with on yourself, but with other people.
Mhm.
Um, so that was like a totally new world for me. And it then brought up stuff for me again, like the next level of shame that I hadn't tapped into, I think, because there's one thing about being in your own space and with your own husband.
Mhm.
But I felt like being around other people whilst you're exploring your own pleasure brought up this kind of societal shame, like others kind of thing. So
Perspective, yeah.
yeah, so that was great to kind of work through those blocks, like
Mhm.
it's that felt really healing. Um and I guess the other breakthroughs is like probably around the divine feminine and the divine masculine, in that being more in my feminine allows me to feel more pleasure. And I think being in a world where we're very much in our masculine energy because we're doing rather than just being,
Mhm.
it takes us again outside of ourselves, because masculine energy is very goal orientated. And even I think sex for me possibly was quite goal orientated too previously.
Mhm.
And I think once you start tapping into your feminine energy a bit more, it becomes less goal orientated and more about the experience and the journey. And so I feel like, yeah, just becoming more in touch with my feminine energy and what that means, like how do you be in your feminine energy? So I've been exploring that, and I've been exploring that with other women, and that's partly what's on the course I'm going to chat about later with you. We discussed that as well. So yeah. And any other pleasurable experiences, I think I've just like awakened my own sense of like love for myself and
Mm.
respect for myself and oneness with myself. So yeah, like I've had the most amazing experiences with myself, and
Mm.
essentially I don't need a partner, so I'm coming to my partner with a full plate. Because I
Yeah.
think often as well, I was coming to my partner being like, because I hadn't pleasured myself or hadn't done anything, I was expecting him to give me pleasure, but actually I'm the one experiencing pleasure for myself, and I'm joining with him to enjoy both our sexual energies rather than sort of needing anything from him, or to yeah, so we explore together from a place where I know myself,
Mm.
and I've what's the word, I feel content already when I join with him, like yeah. So I think that's been a really beautiful experience.
Yeah, I always come back to this, the phrase like, oh, two halves make a whole and all of this. I'm always like, no, I don't want to come as a half. I want to come as a whole.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's I think you're speaking to something so beautiful about this idea of like we can find pleasure in like the tiny, tiny things in life, like these big retreats are amazing, and it kind of leads on to my next question about like doing it within community and things like that. But you can find pleasure in the smallest of things, and it's just this idea of like making love to life. I know we spoke about this a lot at Awaken to Pleasure, but pleasure can be found in like the food you eat, like taking a shower, like going for a walk. Like it's in everything if you just kind of tap into it and slow down. A lot of it comes back to slowing down.
Slow
um,
down.
yeah, and I guess yeah, I love that you spoke a little bit about the retreat and things, because I'd like to ask about why you think this kind of work around pleasure is so important to do within like within sisterhood, or like within like a group of women. Why is it so powerful to do the work in this way?
I think because essentially we're like social creatures, aren't we? And we can only do so much on our own. Like we're not an island. We learn through each other. And I think especially women, we get really inspired by each other. You
Yes.
know, I think within within sisterhood as well, like it whatever you're doing, whether it's a retreat or a course, will always be unique because of the individuals that come and what they bring. And there's that element of like it's going to go exactly how it's meant to go, like because of the people that are on it, you know. So like all the questions that you come with will be answered because of all the people that are on it as well. So you know, I feel like there's this beautiful dance, I think, when women come together in kind of a safe container, um where yeah, trust is built, because I feel like there's also these sister wounds to overcome. Um, and I feel there's this trust between women that, you know, potentially has been broken before you were even born. You
Mm,
know, like I don't, I'm not, I don't really talk about kind of witch hunts and things like that, but there's stuff in our history that has taken women away from each other, you know,
mm,
broken these bonds. And you know, it could you know, even in Victorian society, whereas it was a time of control and you had to control yourself, so if you were too sexual, you know, you'd be shamed then, so and by other women. So I feel like there's all these wounds between women and our relationship with each other that needs to be addressed and healed, because together we're better, together we're stronger, together we feel a sense of belonging in the world, we feel a sense of acceptance. And I feel like the cherishment that women have for each other is really healing. And it once when we have that, we go out in the world and we just feel like we can shine that little bit brighter and kind of open ourselves up a little bit more. um so yeah, I feel like it's the connection, you know, that we have that's so healing and healthy. I feel like it's the inspiration that
mm.
we get from each other when we're together. Um, yeah, that's probably the two main things why in sisterhood.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And kind of just the mirroring that you spoke of, just having other people there to bounce ideas off. And there's always that one person or multiple people that you meet and you're like, oh my God, I've been through that same thing. Like it's just so nice to go through the process being supported by other people who might not, everyone's from a different walk of life and has been on their own journey, but it's remarkable when it all boils down, like how similar we all actually are in many ways. And there's so much comfort in that. And I just think you spoke about that all so beautifully. And we actually sat next to each other in the retreat, which was just such an honor. And I got to know you a little bit more intimately and things. So yeah, it was such a pleasure.
Okay.
And I guess kind of one of my closing questions would be, what are you most passionate about right now? Or what is obviously pleasure, and exploring that within your work, but what is your why? And I'd love to hear about the new exciting offerings you have coming up. I know there are a few around pleasure and sisterhood gatherings, for people who'd like to get involved, and just, yeah, a little bit about your visions for the future.
Okay, thank you. Personally, I think I'm just excited to continue my own journey, my own deepening into my sensitivity, my sensuality, and I'm really embracing at the moment. I'm just like super excited to share this with other people. So that's why I set up the Sensual Awakening free dances, because I also want it to be accessible for people on different levels. And, I feel like there's the pleasure that we talk about on one spectrum, and then there's the everyday pleasures that you're talking about with like food and having a shower, going for a walk, just, the everyday pleasures. And the more you hone into those everyday pleasures, the more it builds up to the pleasure at this end of the spectrum. So no matter where you are on your journey, um, it's always good to be in a beginner's mind. So for me, it's always good to come back to the simple pleasures all the day, every day, as a consistent practice, so that when you come up to this stage, you're not so like dissociated your from your sensuality, from yourself. You're already wired for pleasure because you've been doing these, bits down here. So I guess I'm just excited because I guess it's part of my um spiritual path now, of like finding myself, is through following my pleasure and bringing it into my life and then sharing it with other women. And I feel like the sensual awakening, the dancing, is another kind of simple pleasure that we can do. And I combine it with like massage and just getting in touch with yourself, as well as breath work and some really positive affirmations. And yeah, so yeah, I'm just really excited to see where it goes for me and then for my partner, because obviously like he benefits. And yeah, and who knows where this will go. At the moment, I'm just doing like online teachings. So I'm launching this 7-week pleasure course, and I wanted to arrange it in a way that was like achievable for people, because I know that people are busy, and I really want people to have a bit of pleasure in their lives, so like even if you're not at that stage of prioritizing a lot in your life, at least have little, drops of it, throughout your week, so that it feels attainable and easy for you to do, and then you just build from that. So um I've done it so that we meet up on a Monday and we have like a sister circle group, and then on the Tuesday you'll get your play work for the week. So you have a whole week to do this pleasure play work. And we start from a really simple level. We start, it's all step by step, building up to more pleasure. And it's really about, I feel my big thing is about people coming back to their innocent curiosity. So I think that's what I'm also excited about, is to take people on this journey of coming back to their innocence and exploring their pleasure right from the beginning, so they can resensitize themselves.
Mm.
'Cause we have to desensitize ourselves because we get overstimulated, or yeah, as I said, to keep ourselves safe. So it's just about, yeah, opening up this channel of curiosity again.
Mm.
Um, so that course is launching on the 10th of January. So it's a great way to start the new year, and maybe to start your pleasure journey or restart it. And yeah, and then I guess the other thing is just these sensual awakening dances, which have been just so beautiful and a really lovely way to connect. And everyone's just been telling me how amazing they've been feeling afterwards. Yeah, and then who knows? I think my vision is mainly just to put myself in more situations that feel good to me. So like going to the Awaken to Pleasure course felt like a bit scary, but I knew it was safe and I knew it was going to be held well. And then what I got from it was so much. So I think for me, it's about just exploring these little scenarios and safe spaces where I can explore my sensuality, so that the more I find myself, the more I can help other people. Um, and yeah, because that's what I want to do. I want to see people feeling happy and healthy and embracing themselves
Mm.
100%, like authentically who they are, and not feeling like they have to hide or dampen things down. I think the world needs more sort of radiant, shiny beings around with everything that's going on. And I think especially with the way things are just going at the moment, being in winter, and the worries and anxieties around COVID, that there's no better time to go towards your pleasure, to keep stepping away from the fear and the anxiety, the collective anxiety that's everywhere, and just like creating your own little bubble of pleasure that you're in. There's no better way to have healthy cells to combat anything that might come your way. So,
Mm.
I sometimes I think like, oh, why aren't I off saving animals? Or I don't know, just doing something like that, like saving the world. I always had this thing, I wanted to save the world, but I feel like actually, like woman by woman, like helping them to embrace their sensuality and their sexuality and have them glowing, my job is done,
Oh,
like.
a
And then
hundred times over.
and then, and who knows what that woman's capable of. And yeah, I just feel like, I've got more in touch with the land that I'm on through being in my sensuality.
Mm.
Like, more animals have been just appearing in my life. I have this huge connection with animals, and I've had these really special moments. Like the other day, I had a butterfly just come and land on me whilst I was like pleasuring myself. Like, it's just like insane things. And like,
Mm.
yeah, and probably more stuff. But it's,
Oh.
yeah. So I think for me, it's like saving the world by helping women to really love themselves and love their bodies, love who they are,
Mm.
and yeah, allowing them to open up so that they can just have the best connections with other people, because I think that's what we all want, isn't it? We just want to feel, we do want to feel loved, but we have to love ourselves first, and then we can open up to more love. And love is what's going to heal the world. That's what we all were made from. So
Mm.
yeah.
Oh my goodness. I love what you shared. I love how when I asked you about kind of your why, or like lots of people normally go to like, oh, this is my big vision for the collective, but you said so like innocently and just like, oh, I'm excited to like continue to explore my own pleasure. Like that's the thing, we're all just like students to all of this, no matter if you're a mentor, like what level you're at. I love what you said as well about having this beginner's mindset and just coming with an openness and a playfulness to everything. And just your work, for me, the word that just shouts out at me is like empowerment. Like you're all about empowering other people on whatever level, whether that's through like your sensual awakening offerings, like the 7-week pleasure course. And I think your work, what you're doing right now, it's having such a butterfly effect. And so you are really saving the world one person at a time, for sure. No worries about that. And I guess we'll just close with like a little juicy goodie bag for the watchers about can you share your 3 top tips around pleasure, please? And then I know that we might have a cheeky discount for the pleasure course too, so I'll kind of hand over to you to close. But yeah.
You. So my 3 tips. The first one is about awakening your innocence, your curiosity, and being curious about your yeses and your nos. So checking in with like, is this yummy to me? Am I having a reaction of yum? And
Mm.
if you are just really feeling into that, and so whether you're eating something or walking somewhere, or I don't know, listening to some music, like just, your simple everyday things. And yeah, listening to your like, or yuck, or no, like energy, and just listening to that and just thinking, okay, well, how can I turn my no, my yuck, my yas into yum, like yes, like, so for me, sometimes like music just enhances a moment so much. So where a moment might be feel quite dreary or mundane, like doing the washing up or whatever, turn some music on that is a yes, that makes you feel good. So yeah, I think just tapping into your innocence, your curiosity, like
Full body yeses.
body yeses, yeah. The second would be is to check in with yourself. So I guess that it kind of goes hand in hand with checking in with your yums and your nose. But just checking in with yourself, like when you're being busy, when you're like how often do you check in with yourself? Like that's even a question. And the way I check in with myself is like during this, I've been putting my hand on my heart, and it's because that's the way I connect in with me. And I feel like it's the quickest route how you can connect in. And I do it quite often. Like if I'm not sure about a question, like, and I don't want to use my thinking and trying to push the answer out, I'll just connect in with here, and I'll lean back and just listen, and the answer just comes so much easier. But also I think just taking time to check in with how you are, like literally asking yourself, like, how am I? So you're just building up this really beautiful connection with yourself, and you're not just dragging yourself through this, that, and the other. You might still have to do this, that, and the other, but at least take a moment, like be courteous to yourself, and just take a moment to be like, how am I feeling? Okay, give yourself love. How can I make what I need to do like better, or what can I give myself afterwards once I've done it? Like be your own best partner, basically. And my third tip would be touching yourself. Like I feel like it's easy for us to touch other people, and maybe we're not touchy people. Maybe you don't really like touch that much. And so it's about exploring areas that do feel good to you. So like some areas might not feel good, but maybe other areas do. And it's just about, like I like to give myself a hug, or even just a touch where I check in with myself. I often put one hand on my heart, one hand on my womb. I do that, at the end of the day in my bed. I'll just check in with myself. Or when you're in the bath, just you're massaging yourself, like again, just being your own best partner, as though your lover was in the bath with you, and just like stroke your legs, stroke your arms. When you're in the shower, don't just be I think so often with our bodies we are, what's the word, like functional. We're so functional. You're like, washed your hair, like, done that, functional, got myself dressed. No, just like your essential being, like we're born with five senses. We're born to feel, hear, and taste, and all these delicious things. I think just touch yourself with that, like, yeah, just come back to that you're not just an object to move around and do this, that, and the other. Like you're a thinking, feeling being. And so I think just tapping into that, and yeah, just giving yourself a hug, because we're all amazing, and we all need a hug every day. And if we're not going to get it from someone else, then give it to yourself.
Yes. Oh, I feel like those are the best tips. I like at the end there, I like even started touching myself.
Yeah.
It's contagious. It's contagious. Oh, thank you so much, Beauty. I feel like everything you've shared has just been like with such radiance, and I know that you have this like wholehearted commitment to the work that you're doing at the moment, and I can't really imagine anyone that I feel kind of safer with. You just create such a warm environment, and but I also know you have so much knowledge and wisdom, and just such a depth and breadth of experiences in life. I can't imagine anyone really better to hold you through this journey on pleasure. So Thank you so much for kind of answering all of my questions. You did answer them so beautifully. And yeah, I'll hand it over to you to close with any kind of final remarks. But thank you.
Thank you so much, Jenny, Jennifer. Do you ever get called Jenny?
I did when I was younger. It makes me feel playful. Jennifer's
Oh, I
kind of
like
like
it. Maybe that's what mood we're in. Yeah.
that.
Love it. Okay. Yeah. I just want to say thank you so much for your questions and comments and your love and encouragement and everything. I really, really appreciate it. And yeah, I hope this has been really informative for the listeners. I guess just a chance to get to know me because, you know, on Instagram, it's just squares and, you know, it's hard to get to really know the person behind the squares because there's not much opportunity. And I would love, love, love you to come and join me on the 7-week pleasure course, or perhaps you're a man listening and you have a partner and you want to treat your partner to a course, to the course for a Christmas present or something. Yeah, but thank you so much. And I look forward to connecting with you again, Jennifer. This might be something that we'll do again about something else, or just continuing. Yeah. So have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.